Hi everyone, welcome back to Bolts to Lights. I'm Ricky Royal and this is Escape the Dark Sector. This is a sequel to Escape Dark Castle from Themeborn, a game I've not played, so this is going to be my first experience of a Themeborn adventure. It plays 1 to 4, so we're going to be playing solo. We'll set up quickly, I'll show you where the variability is, and then we'll start learning to play as we play. The game is going to be driven by this huge deck of cards, which has lots of little story elements on. There is some variability in which cards are going to appear in the game, as well as which characters you're going to play. Playing solo, we're going to choose 2 characters. You can play more if you wish. There's 6 to choose from in total. We've got different weapons, items that you can find as you're travelling around the spaceship. The idea is that we're stuck on a space station. We've been detained, though we've managed to escape our holding cell. Now we've got to traverse the space station, find our ship and escape. We will have to face a final boss. So we're going to take 1 card at random, and that will be the start of our deck. And we're going to travel through 3 acts. So there'll be Acts 1, 2 and 3. Act 1, the detention level, just as we break out of our cell, the detention level. Act 2, the heart of the station. And then Act 3, the forgotten zones. There's a big deck from each act. We're going to take 4, shuffle them, place them face down from each act. So you can see there's lots of variability already in how the game plays, what stories you'll encounter. If we get through all this deck, we escape and win the game. However, if any of our crew members die along the way, then we immediately lose the game. There's only 3 ways to begin the game, and they're all very similar, but they'll give you slightly different bonus to which items you start with at the start of the game. So let's grab a couple of players. Each crew member has different stats. This is their might, their cunning and their wisdom. And you can see I've got a couple of crew members with variable stats. Strong in might, strong in wisdom. They're both middling in cunning. Now you don't need it, but there is a playmat. So let's get this out and use this, because it'll just kind of keep your area neat, and it'll just remind you of what goes where as you're playing through the game. A mission record, or medical records. We need one for each of our crew. We'll come back to that in a minute. We've got a mission successful and a mission failed. We probably won't need mission accomplished. It's one of those games that's going to be quite challenging to win, but that's okay, you need that, right? Especially in a solo game. We'll need an item deck. We're going to shuffle it and place it here. This is a deck of 24 cards. We've got some tactical action cards as well. We'll come to those in a little while. Got a medical drone and a tactical flank action, and then a couple of reference cards. We've got a whole bunch of dice. We'll learn to use these as we play. And each crew member has its own special die as well. So we've got Lieutenant Tanner and Lieutenant Cook. And these dice reflect these skills down here. Right, so which ones have more might, more cunning, more wisdom on each side. Pretty nice little design. We're also going to modify the starting players with a little cybernetic implant. So another layer of variability here to your characters. So at the start of the game, you could get to choose one of these cybernetic implants. How are you going to modify your character? So for example, a neural override says whenever you roll a double outside of combat, so this is ways to mitigate dice rolls. Before applying the results, you may change it to any single and apply that result instead. You see, so there's different ways of changing up your characters. So let's give Tanner an auto cortex, and we'll give Lieutenant Cook combat protocol. Play to their strengths. I was thinking the other way to do it is to kind of compensate for their weaknesses, but we're going to play to their strengths. Each crew member also starts with 12 health points, and we're going to put this here on their medical record. So what we do, let's give them a name. So this is Tanner. She starts with 12. I'll put a circuit here, I put the 12, and the same for Cook. Alright. We've also got some starting weapons. We're not going to need those just yet, but we may do once we turn over the first card of the mission deck and begin our adventure. After weeks confined to the detention block, you finally break free of your cell. Outside, the lighting flickers intermittently, and the burning stench of recent laser fire hangs in the air. Beside a slaughtered guard, a weapon locker has been smashed open. You load up on what little gear and ammunition remains. So it says we're going to draw a starting weapon card for each member of the crew now, and then draw a single item card. Perfect, this is a great start. Now with starting weapons you get to choose. With the item deck we're going to just draw randomly depending on what comes out. So there's two types of weapon in the game. There's starting weapons. There's many in the item deck. We've got a ray gun and a slug pistol, so why don't we take one of each. And also the inventory for each crew member is limited. We've only got 2 hands. These are single-handed weapons. They go this way up. A double-handed weapon you play horizontally, and you've got to imagine that there's 4 slots here. Okay, so you might fill them up with 4 different cards. Okay, and a horizontal card, a 2-handed weapon, would take up 2 slots like this. Do you see? Alright, so that's the way inventory works. Very neat. So simple mechanisms with lots of tactical decisions along the way. Now whenever you find a ranged weapon, it comes fully loaded with ammo. This one has 1 ammo, this one has 1 ammo. The ray gun is an energy weapon. It takes energy ammo. The slug pistol is ballistic. So we'll take an ammo die of the right type. This represents the ammo. So 1 energy, 1 ballistic. Okay, so that's our weapons for each member of the crew, and then draw a single item card. Let's see what we get. It's an alien blade. Right, so we have to decide who we're going to give this to. I think we're going to give it to Lieutenant Cook. This is one of those horizontal items. This is going to take up 2 slots. Okay, let's continue. You hear footsteps approaching. There's no time to lose. You must find your ship at all costs. You steel yourselves before slipping away into the gloom. Turn the first chapter card now. Incidentally, this is a chapter 1, Act 1 card. It has 1 dot on. Act 2s have 2 dots. Act 3s have 3 dots. Okay. Before we step in, we have to decide who's going to be taking the lead here. So let's say it's Lieutenant Cook in front with Lieutenant Tanner behind. Okay. It looks like we've come upon a guard. A wrong turn leads you right into the guard barracks, row upon row of slumbering security personnel. Fortunately for you, a lone guard is on watch duty. She sees you, you both freeze. You must make a choice. Do you run, or do you steal and run? Or do we try and swipe something before we run away? I think anything that we can grab along the way is going to be useful. So let's steal and run. See, it's like one of those choose your own adventure game books, right? Each card is a page in the book though. Steal and run. You swipe something from the nearest berth, then run for it. You, so that's whoever's leading, which is Cook, must roll 2 hit dice and then draw an item card to see what we've stolen. These are the hit dice. It's going to do some damage to us. 2 sides are blank, so there's a chance that we won't. 1 in 3 chance we won't take damage. The rest are hits. Right, let's roll 2. Let's see what happens. 1 hit. When we take a hit, we'll take damage equal to the number in the crosshairs at the bottom right of the mission card, right? So that's how much damage this enemy's doing. 1. So 1 hit, 1 HP damage. So we're down to 11 This guard has managed to get a swipe off at us. Okay, and then we get to draw an item card. Let's see what we grabbed from this berth. The sleeping guard. Whoa! A battery cannon. Another two-handed weapon. What I might actually do is toss the slug pistol over to Lieutenant Tanner, and I'll keep this battery cannon. So whenever you draw stuff during a chapter, each of these cards is a chapter, they kind of go in a temporary pool, and then between chapters you can decide who gets what and whether anything needs to be discarded. Let's ammo it up. It's a ballistics weapon. It's 3 ammo. Nice. We'll push on. We'll keep Lieutenant Cook in the front here. Right, Lieutenant Cook, what happens next? Wow, looks like we've got more of a challenge now, and we're going to see how combat works. You hurry around a bulkhead and collide with a pair of patrolling guards. They immediately open fire. We must roll 2 hit dice. Okay. That's 1 hit and 1 miss. Each hit is going to do 1 damage. This number 2 here, this happens if we do close combat. Right, hand to hand. We'll come to that if and when. That's a 1 damage for Cook. Down to 10. Now, as a group, it says we choose one option. We can evade or we can attack. If we evade, we're going to each take 1 hit. I think normally I might evade in this instance and just push on through, but they're relatively weak opponents. Why don't we have a crack at it and we'll learn how combat works. Right, attack. Your training kicks in. Begin combat. There's 2 types of combat. Range combat and close combat. When it says begin combat, we can choose. We can either dive straight in and begin close combat, or we can initiate range combat. It may say begin range combat or begin close combat, then we have to do one or the other, but we can choose. So let's start with some ranged combat. We start ranged combat by placing these chapter dice as indicated on this card in this little track. Okay, so we've got 2 might, 1 cunning, and then this little crew symbol. That means you must roll, so we don't know what we're going to get, but roll 1 additional chapter die for each member of the crew. So with 2 crew members, we're going to roll 2 dice, place them here. It doesn't matter what order, right? They just represent a whole bunch of stats. 2 might, 2 cunning, 1 wisdom. We're going to have to use our weapons to overcome these to defeat the enemy. Kind of reflects the fact we need to do 5 wounds here. Playing cooperatively, the more crew members you have, the more options are available to you during combat. One of you might be shooting, one of you might be running up the flank, one of you might be healing, one of you might be reloading. With only 2 crew members, the combination of options that your total crew can make are obviously a lot fewer. Obviously the compensation is fewer dice, this icon here. Now, whether we're playing close combat or range combat, there's always a few standard actions that are available to us. Each crew member is going to choose which action they're going to take. Standard actions are reload, trade items, or take cover, do nothing. Now, we're in range combat. Everyone's assumed to have dived into cover at this point. But at least 1 person must fire. Okay, so you must fire your weapon. Otherwise, your enemy is just going to come and engage you in close combat. So you've got to keep them at range by at least 1 of you firing. Let's say that's what Lieutenant Cook's going to do. You've also got a couple of options up here. At the beginning of the game, we're assumed to be accompanied by this tactical medical drone. It's kind of hovering around. When it detects enemies, it deploys automatically. And then we've got the option of activating it. It's a once per combat thing, but it allows you to heal 1 HP. Alright, we don't want to do that. The other option we have is the flank option, and this is one of the 2 actions available to us during ranged combat. Apart from those standard actions, we can either shoot or we can flank. Let's assume that Tanner flanks. So Tanner, while we place their crew die here, so while Lieutenant Cook is laying down some covering fire, Tanner is going to sprint out of cover and she's going to dive into some cover up here on the flank. Of course, there's a chance that while she's breaking cover and running for the flank, he might get hit. So in order to take the flank action, we have to roll 1 of these dice. and it's a hit, so she suffers 1 HP damage. Now, of course, this is why I probably would have just run away anyway, because we only had to take 1 hit die, I think, just to evade these things, and it would have got us through the card. Remember, the objective of the mission is to get through all of these cards, so evading was just as good as anything else. But there are rewards for combat, so if we succeed, we will get rewards. Hold on to that thought. Okay, so Tana's run up the flank. That's their action done. This is all happening simultaneously, by the way. So Cook's popped out of cover and is now shooting the battery cannon. Each weapon has a fire rate. It's right down here. This one's got a fire rate of 3. We're going to roll 3 ammo dice. Along with these 3, we're going to include 1 hit die. Okay. The results of this roll, we're going to look at this enemy hit chart. Each type of ammo might do different amounts of damage. Okay. So what we can see is that ballistic weapons do 2 damage. Energy weapons only do 1, so Cook's doing the right thing here. Wow, that's a good roll. This one's not so good. This is the enemy returning fire. We'll come to that in a second, but it's a hit. So it's going to do 1 damage. This special one here, this is equivalent. It says it depends on the weapon, but this one says it does 2. This is equivalent to 2 ballistic hits. There's a blank on here as well, and there's also a weapon jam. This is the worst one. So rolling 3 dice can be bad. If your weapon jams, none of the dice applied, even if they rolled hits. This time we were lucky. The good news is our 5 hits is enough to take off all of those wounds. And we've defeated the enemy. If they'd survived, we'd go to another round. Tana, being on the flank this time, will get to fire their weapons. The difference this time is, because they're doing this flank attack, if they inflict a wound, they get to do an additional wound, and they get no retaliatory hit back. Okay, there's no return fire. But the difference then is you retrieve that die, this goes face down, flank is not available again for the rest of this attack, you can't do it twice. The other important thing is that for Lieutenant Cook here, they spent their 3 ammo. This weapon now has no ammo. So, they go back up here. And Cook, if we were still going, would probably be taking a reload action here and hoping that Tana would finish off those patrolling guards. The other thing to point out is when Cook fires, they fired their battery cannon. That's a 2-handed weapon, that's the only weapon they're firing. For Tana, they can fire both these weapons, so they don't have to choose one of them. Right? They could fire off both, so in their flank attack we could have had them rolling both these dice. But you can choose, right? You don't have to. You might say, actually, I'm going to fire that one, leave this one for next time, and mix it up. So it's all up to you. The other important thing is, if this did misfire, the ammo's not spent. Right? So it misfires, you don't have to reload, right? You just keep the 3 dice. And next time your weapon is ready to fire again. Right? So there's lots of little extra things to remember, but that's it. You've pretty much got the rules down for ranged combat. As it goes, we've knocked them all out in one go, and then Cook suffers his hits down to 9. Having defeated the guards, we now look at this after combat reward. It tells us we draw 2 item cards. This is like loot that these guards have dropped. So we got speed stims and a force field. Well, given that Cook's inventory is full, I'm going to give both these to Tana. Now we'll push on to the next chapter. Before we do, between chapters, so between drawing cards, you can always do stuff. You can use stuff in your inventory. You can exchange items between your crew members, or you can take a reload action once. So let's reload the battery cannon. 3 ballistic dice. Okay. Right, reloaded. Flank is now available again. At the end of every combat, make that available again before we start a new chapter. Ready? Who's going in first? I guess Cook's going in first again. Oh, who's this? Out of the darkness, a frantic prisoner sprints towards you. narrowly evading a barrage of crackling laser fire from behind him. You lose 1 HP as a shot meant for him strikes you. Oh dear, we've been caught in the crossfire. As a group, we can choose to either let him through or attack. So I think we're going to let him through, and it says, our salty old captain is grateful and hastily rewards you before vanishing into the dark. Draw an item card. Right, so Cook takes a hit, down to 8, and probably wants to heal up at some point. So let's draw an item card. We've got some stale rations. Discard to restore 1 HP to your crew member. Well, actually, that's not too bad. Remember, all items we draw go into an item pool, and then we dish them out and serve between our crew members. But you can always use items that are in the item pool and just discard them straight away before giving them to anyone. So let's do that. Let's use the stale rations and discard it to restore 1 HP. Using items directly from the item pool is a useful tactic if your inventories are full. So let's restore 1 health back to Cook. Okay, push on. Okay, ahead, 2 elite guards are marching an alien prisoner to the brig. As a group, choose one. We can either attack them, their gear might prove useful. Well, our inventories are kind of full. We can hide, we can slip into the shadows trying to avoid detection as they pass. All members of the crew must roll their crew die, and no might must be rolled. Let's try this. So we're going to roll our dice. Now this is going to be tough for Lieutenant Cook, because he's got lots of might on his die. Let's roll and see what happens. We do have our little implants. So for Tanner, for example, it says once per chapter, when not in combat, you may re-roll your crew die, applying the second result. So if Tanner rolls might, we could use this to get a re-roll. Okay, we're lucky. We've all rolled wisdom. Now there are some nice little implants here, such as Neural Override. This is a good card. This implant says, whenever you roll a double outside of combat, like now, before applying the result, you may change it to any single. So let's say Cook here rolled the double might. As it's a double outside of combat, they could have just changed it to any single and effectively hidden in the shadows. Yeah, but as it goes, we were successful anyway. So success, what does it say? Is you all stay hidden. Turn the next chapter card. Who's going to turn the next chapter card? Let's go with Cook, continuing to take the lead. Incidentally, Tanner also had this speed stims, but after rolling your die before applying the result, you can change it to cunning, so that could have used us as well. Okay, Cook, we're on a level 2 chapter card now. Let's have a look. Wow, what's this? The floor here becomes a rumbling conveyor belt, ushering discarded machine parts through a brutal dismantler. A series of robotic limbs, cutting, slicing and scorching whatever comes their way. Each member of the crew must choose one method to try and get through. We can use foresight, or wisdom, or we can use brute force, use our might. So Cook's going to try and use brute force. So it says 3 attempts, we've got to roll 2 might. Okay, let's go. 2 might, that'll do it. Nice. The double does it. So Cook is through. Success, you make it through with barely a scratch. Alright, Tanner, you're going to use foresight. So she's looking for a wisdom in 1 attempt. Oh, done it. Nice. We had the autocortex. That could have saved us. But both crew members have made it through successfully. Nice. Alright, Cook, you're next to keep taking the lead, pushing us through. You encounter a vision seller. Peddling the very latest in sensorium stimware. Each member of the crew must choose one option. We can refuse, don't mess with that stuff, never have, never will. We can trade for a bliss vision. We discard an item card. We jack in and gain 1 HP as you experience glorious, revitalizing sensations. Okay, I don't think Tanner wants to do this. This could be good for Cook, but Cook is low on wisdom. Yeah, he doesn't want to mess with this stuff. Never have, never will. Refuse. Let's push on. Alright, looks like we've found a bar. Passing through the leisure zone, a crew of mercs block your way, intent on starting trouble. You'll have to fight them one-on-one. Roll a pair of chapter dice for each crew member. Each pair represents an enemy. Each crew member must then begin combat separately against an enemy of their choice. Rounds of these separate combats are fought simultaneously. Ranged combat and close combat can occur in the same round in different combats, but not within the same combat. Till they have defeated their chosen enemy, the only actions a crew member can take are shoot and fight. Alright, so this is a barroom brawl. So we need a pair of chapter dice for each. For Tanner, we've got 2. For Cook. Now you might say, what's the significance of these dice? Well, this is where your crew dice are used, and you have to roll these to do close combat. So this is like hand-to-hand, bare hand combat, and you're looking for symbols that match these symbols to do the damage. In fact, let's demonstrate that with some close combat. So let's start over here with Tanner and see if she can do something about this enemy. We want to stay it ranged as much as possible, so let's stay ranged, and we're going to do 1 hit. I could fire both, but just for the sake of the demo, let's go with 1. Let's use the slug pistol. So Tanner, we're doing ranged combat. We're going to roll 1 of these and 1 of these for the return fire. Wow, that's what we wanted to see. So we got 2 hits, and we've taken a hit back. So health down to 10 on this one. That's that die dealt with. In fact, no, down to 9. It's 2 damage at ranged. Let's do that again. That's down to 9. Okay. And then we do 2 hits. Each ballistic weapon does 1 damage. That's 2 dice. Alright, so Tanner's taken theirs out. Good job. Now Cook, worried about a weapon jam and doing no damage at all, is going to decide to go close combat. Okay, and also because I want to show you how it works. Now normally you can't be doing ranged combat here and close combat here. It's either all, you're all doing ranged or you're all doing close. But this has some special instructions. Remember, it says there are 2 separate combats, and it says ranged and close can occur in the same round in different combats. All right, but not within the same. So how does close combat work in this game? We're not using our weapons, so the cannon's not being used. We could be using the alien blade, but it's not going to help us as it goes. If these were 2 dice showing the same, because this one says 1 per round, when you hit you may remove an additional chapter die of the same type. So if this were 2 might here, that might be good for us, but it's not. We need a cunning here as well. So what we're going to do is roll the crew member die. This is Lieutenant Cook's crew die. We've got a double might. That's pretty strong. We've got our combat protocol, though this doesn't really help us. It says 1 per round you may re-roll your crew die and choose which result to apply. Okay, so I could have re-rolled it, maybe gotten this. Yeah, this might help us next time. But as it goes, we've gotten, what did we get? The double might with a shield around it. So we've got 1 hit, a chapter die is removed. The second might here does nothing because this is a cunning. Our enemy's still alive. There's a chapter die remaining, so they're going to fight back. And the enemy's going to do 2 damage. This 2 melee damage, the one on the right. Okay, this is hand to hand. This is ranged. But because I've rolled a shield, I've blocked. Right, so the only way to prevent damage is to roll a shield on your crew die. We've blocked this attack. We suffer no damage. Perfect. Second round of combat now. So Tanner's coming in as well as Cook. We're both going to do close combat. And we've got the 1 hit we needed here. That's it, we've finished off these enemies. Our reward is 2 items. We got an alien sludge, which I can use straight away and restore 1 HP. Let's give that to Cook. And then we've got a battle rifle, a new weapon. So I think what we'll do, let's give Cook his 1 extra health restored. And I think we might just get rid of these two single-handed weapons, load up with the battle rifle, drop those. This takes ballistic ammo, 2 of them. And the good thing about this one is it's got a choice of fire rates. So we can unload both ammos if we wish, or just one. Right, so it gives us a little bit more in the way of options. The downside is we're both using ballistic weapons now. So maybe I'll keep the ray gun. What do you think? And yeah, we'll keep the ray gun and we'll get rid of the speed stims. So we've pretty much got all the rules down now. And I don't want to spoil too much by pushing on through. And we've started our way through chapter 2. And that's the game. Pretty neat, lots of good story. You don't really know what combination of cards is going to come out. And as you can see, the rules are really simple, quick to learn, and a great little solo distraction. That's Escape the Dark Sector. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Tanner's down, and that's it. Game over. That is a tough final round. You've really got to get loads of items, I think. Yeah. Mission failed. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the conclusion. We got all the way to the final card, but I got it down to 4 HP. But yeah, that did not help. Wow. Tough. It is tough. We were running on empty, really, at the end. There you go. Good fun. Let's stack up. Try again. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.